Hello, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to this live Employers Masterclass session from the Change in Education Group. This is an opportunity for employers to give you, the students, a real insight into their world of work. My name is Amos Madra, your host on this virtual work experience program here from the Change in Education Group. I can't believe we're already coming towards the end. The week's finished. What an incredible week we've had of virtual work experience. Thank you so much to your feedback, the reflections you guys have sent. I had a wonderful message sent to me earlier on from you guys telling me how this week's been so impactful. It's made a huge impact. You've enjoyed the live morning sessions, and it's always encouraging to hear that. But ultimately, this week is all about you. It's about giving you guys the best experience you can, the best lessons from fantastic employers who can help you on that career pathway, in that direction that you want to go into. Well, today, to finish the whole week off, I've got a fantastic guest here with me today. It's Sophie Cross, who is the editor and publisher at Freelancer Magazine. Freelancer Magazine is an independent print-first magazine for freelance life less ordinary. Their core audience is made up of creative B2B freelancers and companies of one, but they feature stories from a huge mix of the most talented freelancers. So expect to be inspired by those in completely different industries. How good does that sound? And that continues with the same kind of theme we've had all week. Sophie, good afternoon. A warm welcome to you.
Hiya, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, incredible. So, when I hear about the freelance area, there's so much to dissect and to think about. We know that the past 18 months or so have been really difficult in terms of freelancing, and also, there's a lot of hurdles freelancers have had to deal with. Can you talk to us just about the past year or so, how the industry's coped?
Yeah, of course. The magazine was actually born out of the fact I lost a lot of my clients because of the pandemic. So yeah, I can talk about that firsthand. But I suppose it was kind of make or break for a lot of freelancers, just depending on the industry that they were in. Just all sorts of change. And I guess because we are small companies or companies of one, or, generally working on our own, that sometimes that can be great because we can be like super adaptable, super agile. But, you've also got no kind of support. You've got no one to kind of bounce ideas off necessarily. So, there's all sorts of challenges. But my clients were mainly, so I still do a bit of client work. A freelance marketer and copywriter, so writing content for websites and blogs and articles. But my clients were largely in the travel and hospitality sectors. So I was working for people like lastminute.com, the London Eye, sort of hotel groups. So I actually moved back to London at the beginning of last year. I'd been living in Somerset for five years, and I just wanted to be back in London to kind of give my career a bit of a boost. I felt like, it would just be great to be able to kind of do a bit more face-to-face with people and sort of take it to the next level. So I moved back in February. We can laugh about it now, but we can't really, can we? But yeah, by March, a lot of my work had dried up because I didn't really have what people call kind of retainers. So you can have retainer clients, which you kind of contracted and they give you a guaranteed amount of work each month. But, even if you do have those sort of clients, you might be on a 1 month notice or a kind of 3 month notice. But a lot of my work was ad hoc. So people would just get in touch with me when they needed something. But I had quite a lot of regular work. Like I've been freelancing for like 8.5 years now. So I had quite a lot, built up quite a lot of clients and a reputation. But because a lot of it was in travel and hospitality, the work just dried up really. Everyone was kind of in a bit of shock and budgets were getting pulled. So I knew that I had to do something quite different quite quickly, basically. So first of all, I started building courses, online marketing courses. And then from that, the idea for the magazine came about. So I literally had the idea on New Year's Day this year, and issue 2 has just landed, or is just landing at the moment. So yeah, that's where I'm kind of at. But yeah, I guess out of just depended on your industry, and you know, I am pro niching, so I'm pro specializing. But I guess, you know, if you specialize in travel and hospitality and you don't have that range of kind of industries, then you are at risk. I mean, no one really sort of saw this coming, but you know, I guess the other thing is with freelancers, even if you do specialize, it's kind of really important, I think, to not have all your eggs in one basket in terms of clients. So people sort of talk about, you know, maybe not having more than 30 or 40% of your work coming from one client. So, you know, certainly pertinent to have 3 or 4 or more clients, so that, if you do lose one, whether it's because of outside circumstances or because of something that happens, you know, it could be really positive. The thing is, like, you could be doing an amazing job for a client that they realize they want to bring someone in-house to do that role because, you know, they might need to dedicate more time. So you just don't ever want to risk having too much work with one client.
Yeah. Thank you for being honest with us, because, and I think it's good to hear that side of the industry, because it can be challenging, especially in the travel sector. It's been very challenging. We can see it being reported every day in the media, you know, green list, amber list, red list. Travel companies don't know where they're going from one place to another. Airlines even stopping to fly through the UK just because of that, you know, the Delta variant and all the risk that comes with it. So I can imagine it's been very challenging, but I think it's interesting that despite all that, you found a way to navigate your way around and find a niche for you to focus your strengths on. So, you know, with a magazine, and then of course, being now the specialist in that area, you can support people, and I suppose that brings in some business for you as well. Have you always been that sort of person, very entrepreneurial like that? You know, you've got your back against the wall, but you're still able to, you know, swim out of it. Are you, you know, that there's that famous story of the mouse and the cheese, and you know, turns it into cheese because they're fighting away, and you know, they just don't stop. Is that who you are?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say. Like, I probably thrive with a bit of adversity. I actually, you know, it's so much easier to do things when you've got nothing to lose. Actually, the difficult time it is to do something is if you're like fairly comfortable, but you kind of want to make a change. So, you know, I don't know if I'm someone who thrives with adversity or someone who just gets themselves in adversity a lot of the time. But yeah, I suppose I felt that, you know, I always say kind of like the most exciting things come from when you have a blank canvas. And, you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing. You definitely don't feel that at the time, but, you know, it really does. And yeah, I suppose I did feel like it was kind of a nice mix of having experience and having nothing to lose. Yeah. So when I look at the magazine now, I see like I've been laying down dots. I think Steve Jobs talked about it once. He like laid down lots of dots, and you won't see how those dots join up until later on.
Yeah.
But you've just kind of got to keep laying down the dots. And now I look back, I think, God, I made magazines for clients. Like, you know, I've got my marketing experience. I write basically the whole magazine. I was a big part of freelance communities, like even stuff like I love music, you know, so there's a playlist in the magazine, like we hosted a big launch party, and it feels like all of those dots joined up. Yeah. you know, and maybe this isn't the final step on the journey for me, by no means. You know, maybe in 5 years' time we'd be talking about something completely different. But I think I'm as much as possible about trying to enjoy the journey and not kind of focusing on the end destination. So yeah, I think I've always wanted my own business, like always wanted my own business. And I'm not sure where that came from. And not a big multi-million-pound business. The money has never been massively important to me, which, you know, I don't think we should be kind of ashamed about wanting to make money. You know, of course, that is a big motivator, and it's certainly necessary to run a successful business. But I was always more fascinated in the process and the kind of freedom that it would allow you. Like, why would you want to work for someone else if you could work for yourself? But I quite like, I don't really want to manage like tons of people. So yeah, I've always really been working towards that freedom that comes from, you know, working for yourself, even though, you know, if you've got clients, then you haven't got, of course, even if you're running a business, you're not going to have complete freedom, because there's always going to be stuff that you want to do, but it feels like you're doing it for you, and it feels like you can take more of the direction that you want to go in. And, you know, I love being kind of like location independent. I love being able to work from anywhere. Not that we can at the moment, but I love the idea that I could work from anywhere. So yeah, that was always a big driver for me.
Yeah, and you know, you sound like someone who's very self-aware. You spend time, I can imagine, thinking about, you know, what you want to achieve, your goals, and, you know, setting out those plans. And then again, you know, I like your analogy, especially with looking back. You know, sometimes we can't join the dots until we look back, and then we can then see how things have fallen into place. And the fact that you're seeing it as a journey rather than a destination. So you're enjoying the process as you go along, and you're learning from the process. And I think that's something that we're all going through in life. We're all trying to figure out, you know, where we are, what we're doing, and where we want to go to. Where does that self-awareness come from? And would you say you are that person? And if it is so, where does it come from? What age did you start becoming more self-aware?
God, it's difficult to say if you're self-aware or not, because even if you think you're self-aware, then you never know, do you? Do you know what? Like, I'm 38 next week, so I'm not that young. Like, you know, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. So I've been through, you know, a lot of, you know, by no means, I think that the biggest tragedy you could probably think in your 30s or late 30s is that you're kind of past it, or that you should have achieved more by now, or, you know, at any age in life, really. But yeah, I don't know. I am my freelance business is called Thoughtfully. So I guess I've always been, you know, thoughtful or an overthinker, depending on how you want to look at it. Yeah, and became really interested in kind of self-development and stuff like that over the last, you know, 5 or so years. So yeah, I do read a lot of books about, I mean, I was talking about this yesterday. I suppose I always believed business should be sort of done for good. And I don't mean, you know, you have to run a charity, or you have to, you know, it has to be really eco, but I just believe that you should be helping people in some way. You know, you should be providing something that's useful or interesting for them. And that should be, you know, in terms of marketing as well, like, it's your job to make people want it. Like, it's not their job to kind of, you know, you have to give them that kind of FOMO. You have to make the best thing that you can make. So I suppose I always dreamed that business was like that. And when I was working for kind of bigger corporations, that, you know, there was more red tape and levels of hierarchy, and there was less sort of, you know, I never really thought of myself as creative, because I guess I didn't feel that there was that kind of creative freedom to even start to consider myself as creative, I suppose. Yeah, I read like a bit of Seth Godin, it was probably the first, marketing books I started reading. So probably the first one was called Purple Cow. And as a marketer, he's very much about mindset and very much about kind of a people first type strategy, so that you're making sure you create things, you're making sure you create kind of fans and tribes. And I suppose this was sort of in my late 20s. I suppose that kind of I'm quite interested about mindset in general, and how having the right mindset in life, in business, in marketing, and actually that you can choose. I know we can't always choose everything, but now I choose to run this business. I don't think there's kind of virtue in being stressed or being in the office for long hours. And it's not always easy to kind of, you can get into dangerous kind of cycles of like panic, but I'm really trying to like check in with myself. And actually after issue 1, because we launched via a Kickstarter, and I moved house and we fully renovated, painted all these walls pink at the same time. So I had like 3 months of doing that. And I think there was a huge adrenaline crash as well, probably after issue 1 and the Kickstarter finished. And I'd always promised myself, like, I wanted to make it fun. That if I was going to set up this business and this was my business, that I wanted to do it the right way, that it was going to be enjoyable. And I think for a few weeks after that, I felt really burnt out. It didn't feel fun. And I actually put things in place quite drastically. So I got myself a business coach. I started exercising again, because I was just like eating Deliveroo and not exercising. Yeah. And like just kind of kicked my own ass a little bit, because I was, through the Kickstarter, we'd sold issues 1 to 4. So I knew I had to produce issues 1 to 4. And I loved the magazine. I loved everything about it. But I knew that if I stayed in that state of stress and burnout, that it would be like, I'm going to do issues 2 to 4 if it kills me, not I can't wait. And I think that people feel that energy. They feel like in your marketing and what you produce, like they feel that energy. So it's important to kind of like look after yourself first. So yeah, I'm really pro that. And I suppose the amazing thing for me right now is that because of the nature of the work I do, which is basically sharing other people's stories, I get to learn like a lot. And I'm now conscious of being like a role model, of leading by example. So I can't kind of, all mistakes that I've made again and again and again, like charging too little and, not having processes in place and, everything that you do as a freelancer. I'm super conscious now of like not doing those things, because I have to lead by example, which has been like quite powerful for me.
Yeah, I think, the points you're making are really interesting. I think that's something that all freelancers face. Am I charging too little? Do I know what my worth, my value? And I think, you looking at personal development and seeing how that's helped you as well. I like the example, again, that you used, choosing one thought over another. It reminded me of the book by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, where he was in a concentration camp, and despite what he went through, they chose to choose one thought over another to get themselves out of that horrendous situation that they were in. And that's one thing about the human mind, and that's what you can do. You can choose one thought over another. But again, it's just being holistic in the sense that, you don't want to burn out in one sense, like you were saying, but at the same time, wanting to achieve something. So I think it takes a lot of thought. With that, I would argue that planning has a huge part to play in it. Talk to us again about the personal development side, how planning fits into that, how you can develop yourself and support freelancers without burning out.
Yeah, I mean, So yeah, my coach has kind of really helped just think about kind of clarity, I suppose, and yeah, and about planning, so that I suppose for me with the magazine, it's a bit easier than maybe being, you know, a traditional freelancer, because it's a quarterly magazine, so I can start to put things in place now. So what I'm doing is almost, even if I haven't got a plan, I'm sort of writing down the things that I'm doing now, say for issue 2, so that I know that like that is a plan for issue 3, and the same for issue 1. I suppose the thing that I, you know, probably wish I had in place the most, and I guess what I think most freelancers should have in place, is like a sales process. So, you know, you hear a lot of freelancers kind of saying, you know, that people are contacting them last minute, or they're not getting paid on time, and or, you know, that there's lots of rounds of amends or things like that. And, you know, I'm not saying everything's always kind of black and white. Obviously, life is very complex, and I've certainly been in lots of different situations, and to some extent you only learn from your mistakes, but to some extent you will set the level of expectation for the client. So, you know, if you're kind of not confident about telling them what your prices are, if your prices aren't on your website, then that doesn't give the client like confidence in the first kind of your first interaction with them. But if you are going to go to a client and say, yeah, do you know what, this is how I work, you know, this is what I charge, and this is the kind of process that we're going to follow, then that sets the standard, and it also filters out clients that you probably don't want to work with. And, you know, sometimes people don't do it because of confidence, or they don't, you know, I certainly didn't do it for ages, because you just sort of think, oh, I can't have a set process because every client's different and I need to design something bespoke. But actually, I think the better plans, the better you can direct that, the better clients that you're going to end up getting. And actually, I heard this marketer, he's like an ad land man, Rory Sutherland, and he was saying the other day that like a lot, the normal kind of reaction if your product isn't selling is to lower the price, but actually he would suggest that you raise your price, because it's kind of counterintuitive, but you know, there's that kind of thing about being, you know, reassuringly expensive, and you know, it just shows that kind of confidence. So, you know, I'm not saying you can go straight into the market and start charging, you know, top rates. It's got to obviously be kind of relevant to the value that you're providing to the client, but there's no reason why, you know, you couldn't, depending on your skill levels. So I think you just need to be aware that if you're going to kind of go in and charge lower rates, that you're probably going to get worse clients. And, you know, it's something I was talking about the other day, we were talking about on Twitter, that, you know, that there's a lot of debate over like, do you do free work? So do you do, you know, free samples? So for instance, for a copywriter, if a client comes to you and says, oh, hey, we're thinking of using you, can you just write, you know, we want you to write a paragraph for our about page so we can see if your style fits us. And I have done that, and every time I've done that, it's only served to increase the amount of time, like rate, I've been ghosted and sort of overall lower my rates, and then in turn my confidence. So my suggestion would be, if you're a writer, you have to have examples of your writing out in the wild, you know, and social media is perfect for that. Having a blog is perfect for that. Having a newsletter is perfect for that. And then you can direct your client inquiries to those things. But actually, if a client was, I mean, now I would, you know, I might have done this a year or two ago, you know, that's how recently I might have made these mistakes. Now I would laugh in somebody's face if they asked me to do free work for them, because you hear horror stories about they're just asking 10 different people. And I think, it's a huge red flag when you start working with people like that. Like, if I'm going to ask someone to work for me, I'm going to pay them. I'm going to give them a brief. I'm going to give them, like your emergency, your bad timing is not my emergency. So I'm going to try and give people enough time. So if your values are kind of like that, you believe in that, and if you believe that that's how business should be done, then you should kind of not accept clients that won't treat you like that either, I don't think, which is easier said than done.
Yeah, definitely. Experience does teach us some things, and I think having gone through that yourself, you certainly have been burnt on that end, and I'm sure that's something.
Yeah, that's why I can say it with such authority. Give it out the advice you need to hear.
Yeah. Do you find it difficult to say no?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm like getting better at it now, because I think just because everything got so busy with the magazine, and I got so many requests. So actually, because I'm not in a position to have budgets to kind of pay people yet, and I was getting requests to kind of like for people, or even pay myself yet, and I'm getting requests for kind of like people pitching for work. So I just can't at the moment. So you kind of almost get used to it. But yeah, I have to be really strict now, because people just kind of come and they say, oh, do you want us to can we quote for your distribution? Or, oh, we'd like to quote for this. Or, oh, I'd like to write for you. Oh, I've got this idea for an article. And I suppose it's more prevalent doing a magazine than it would be setting up a different kind of business, right? Because it's understandable, especially a freelance magazine, that people want to be involved. And 100%, I want people to be involved when the time is right. But I suppose if you set up like a vitamin business, you wouldn't have like loads and loads of people being like, oh, can I choose the color of the pot? Or I think you should, and of course you want that kind of input. Like, in some ways it's an ideal way to run a business, that, you have people that have a vested interest. But I have to be so strict right now that try and run it with like the values and the direction that I want to go, that isn't being like, I'm not being distracted by other people. So if someone offers me something, I'm like, have to just think really carefully, like, is that the right thing to do for the business? Because I spend all of my waking hours and some of my sleeping hours thinking about the brand, thinking about what is interesting for the readers. So like essentially what is best for the customer. And if someone is pitching me an article, that is probably not their priority. They're probably coming at it from the angle of, how can I get my business mentioned in this magazine? So I have to be really careful that like I always keep what kind of my values are at the front, or, which is essentially what is best for the readership. And yeah, I'm really focused on like building the readership and building the community. So like we do have some advertising, but that is secondary at the moment, because I know that the advertising, if the community is strong and the community grows, then that advertising spend will come. So yeah, I'm just trying to be really focused. And it's just so hard because you also have to be patient, right? So you have to be like, I need to make money. And then you're like, just focus on making like issue 2 as best as it can be. If you can't get kind of distracted away from the product and the service, right? Because, there must be businesses, but like, I can't think of businesses off the top of my head where word of mouth is not probably one of the most important marketing channels. So your first and foremost most important channel is giving something people to talk about, and giving something like people saying, God, I had this copywriter and she was, and it's not always at all about being the best writer. It's about being reliable. It's about getting on with people. It's about, those are the things that are really important. It's about hitting the deadlines that you've set yourself, or they've been set. Those are more important than being the best designer in the world, writing the best magazine in the world, So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, it's all about providing that service, isn't it? Giving the experience for the people. I think Maya Angelou said it's not what you people don't remember you for what you said, but for how you made them feel. So it's the experiences that you give to your clients, which results in that word of mouth feedback. And I suppose that's the greatest compliment for any business.
Mm.
Tell me what you enjoy doing the most.
In business or in life?
Well, you tell me.
I suppose connecting with people across, both. And so, yeah, the magazine is perfect for me in that respect because I get to interview people and I get to share their stories. And, this is not kind of ever going to be anywhere near or would want to be kind of like some ruthless journalism where you're digging up stories. Like, it's always positive. Like, of course, we're not saying that freelancing doesn't come with its challenges and, talking about them as well. But actually, it's so nice to be able to kind of like celebrate people and share their stories because they obviously love being featured as well. So that's really nice. I also really believe, I was a massive part of freelance communities, but that only started for me probably about 3 years ago when I was doing a lot of marketing, and the work that I was being asked to do became very content led. Like, basically all the projects I was being asked to do was either kind of like copywriting or content. And I didn't really know what copywriter was at the time. So I remember someone recommended me to lastminute.com as a copywriter because they knew I could write okay. And I didn't, so I had to go into a meeting with Last Minute and be like, yeah, I'm a copywriter. And I didn't really know what a copywriter was. And I found this like incredible copywriting community on Twitter that are just like all about kind of like helping each other out, collaboration over competition, and just started getting involved with that. So yeah, and then just really became part of like lots of freelance communities. And the idea for the magazine didn't come for probably the first time in my life when I wasn't trying to think of a business idea. It literally came from being part of all these communities, looking at like starting to look at people's problems that weren't, because I'd started to set up the marketing courses for freelancers. I started to really pay attention to what people were saying and not just conversations that were relevant to me or that I felt were interesting to me or relevant to me or where I could help other people. I just started paying attention to kind of everything because I was like, oh, I want to spot gaps here and where I could make courses or where I could help people. And that's kind of where the idea for the magazine came about, because I suddenly thought there's not a magazine for freelancers, and I think that would go down pretty well. And when I launched it, we launched via Kickstarter. The whole magazine was born out of the community being like giving me the support. This issue is themed community, and I put a shout out to say I just had an idea a few weeks ago now, thinking, oh, what am I going to put on this cover of this issue? What am I going to put on the cover of this issue? And I suddenly thought, oh, it'd be cool to put as many people on it as possible. And the amazing thing is when you basically run a company, so Angela Lyons is the designer for the magazine who I worked with in the past. And then I kind of do everything else. And the amazing thing is that when you have a team that small, when you have an idea, you can basically turn it around so quickly. So I put an email out, say on the Monday, saying, oh, would anyone like to submit their photo to be like on the cover of the magazine? And say by, Friday we had over 100 photos. By Monday we'd made the cover. So yeah, I think about community a lot. And so being part of communities is really important to me. And I think the thing that I love to do, whether it's business or personal life, is like connecting other people. So I think people think about community with a business sense is like you having a dialogue with your audience. But I think the community is actually when you can connect other people, and I like absolutely love that. So if I see people on social media, or there's different things in the magazine where we include people's handles across everything, because my ideal is like someone gets the magazine, they read an article, it resonates with them, they message that person and be like, that really resonated with me. Like, so yeah, I suppose I like people. I like connecting with people. I like socializing. I like, being part of communities.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truths that you've mentioned in that. Environment is huge, because being in that freelance copywriting environment helped you, gave you the confidence to understand the sector, to know exactly what to look out for. And then, of course, business is all about meeting the needs of people, and you saw a gap in the market and a need to help people. And, over the years, especially here in the UK, there's, been this positive influence, if you want to call it that, of collaboration. This is something that's been popular in the United States for a long time, but more and more people are collaborating these days. You've grabbed hold of that, and you've seen the good in that, and you've worked it to your advantage. It's worked out for you. So definitely, you seem very aware. You are very aware of your surroundings, your environment, and what's going on around you. And again, it goes back to that being self-conscious and understanding who you are and what you want to achieve. Now, we're already coming towards the end. Time's quickly flown by.
No, we've covered so much.
Would you kindly offer some final words of advice, wisdom for our audience?
So my words of advice, and I think probably what served me really well over the last few years is, since I got into business really, is be a fan. So if you want to be like a marketer, sorry, I keep using the same examples which are relevant to me. So you can be whatever you want to be. You don't have to be a marketer or a copywriter.
Yeah, you told us we've got a blank canvas.
Yeah, you've got a blank canvas, but whatever you want to be, if you want to be an amazing marketer, be a fan of like amazing marketing campaigns and other amazing marketers. If you want to be a designer, be a fan of design. Like if you want to set up a business one day, I'm not saying you have to support everyone setting up a business, but look to support other people setting up businesses. Be curious, because, I didn't know anything about copywriting, and I became a fan of some of the best copywriters in the country, and I'm now lucky enough to call them friends. And that is kind of the power. It's kind of the power of community again. And I'd say that, I know that it's difficult sometimes to work out what you want to be a fan of, but just think about laying down those dots. So it doesn't really matter if you change your mind, it really doesn't. Like, better to just do something, because then you'll work out what you like about that thing and what you don't, as opposed to just kind of think, oh, I can't start anything until I've got the perfect answer. Just choose anything, and then, you'll start to work out, where your next dot might be. And you never know, you might do something for 2 weeks or 2 months, and 5 years down the line, that little dot might contribute to something that you end up doing. But I would just say, be a fan, lay down some dots, and then they'll join up one day.
Sophie Cross, wow. That's advice that I've not heard. I don't think I've heard anyone say. Being a fan.
I've been thinking about it a bit recently.
Good one.
Be a fan, and then you'll get fans.
It's a good one. Be a fan, because fans are interested. They want to know, they want to learn, they want to experience. And as a result, you learn, and then there you can offer your experiences and advice to people. So there you have it, our friends. We come towards the end. The week's finished. Where's the time gone? Sophie's kindly come this afternoon and offered us some fantastic advice. Her experiences as a freelancer and supporting other freelancers as well. It's been a tough year, but when you hear someone like Sophie speak, it fills you with hope that there is a lot of good still to come. So, guys, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you for taking part in this week of virtual work experience here from the Changing Education Group. Please do remember to submit your project briefs no later than 5 p.m. today. Do put your full name, your school or college name, as well as the name of your project brief, and of course attach the project brief with your email, and of course send us your elevator pitch. We want to see your elevator pitch. What is it that stood out for you this week? What is it? Might it have been this interview with Sophie? I'd love to know. Get in touch with us. You know the email, workexperience@changingeducation.co.uk. It's been an incredible week. A huge thank you to all of you. Thank you to Sophie Cross this afternoon. Well, guys, go and enjoy the Olympics. Thank you very much indeed. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the bell icon so that you're notified whenever we upload a video. So for myself, Amos Madra, and all the team here at the Changing Education Group, thank you very much indeed. Take care.